I think one of the most important things, I have children, and so many of you out there I know have kids, and we have questions about our kids, and we have philosophies how we're going to raise our kids. Well, today I'm going to try to help you over those hurdles of those questions, right, on what's important for our kids. I have an amazing guest today, and he's going to help us, and he's a superstar guest, so this is pretty exciting for us. But his journey through life, I think, is gonna really change some of our thoughts, right, on as we raise our kids and things that are important for our kids. Because as young parents, we don't really know what we're doing. We were raised a certain way, and so that's really all we know. But I think today's important that we kind of focus on a couple things and understanding where life's going to take us and where life is going to take our children, and some important things. And as I was talking to our guests, that's how I came to this conclusion about what we're going to talk about today. Most people are going to say, we got to talk sports because he's a big-time athlete. And we are going to talk a little bit about sports, but I really want to focus on some important things in life, and it was important how he was raised, because I have a lot of people on this show that have diverse ways that they were brought up, right? With loving, wonderful parents, with divorced parents, single mom, single dad, ruled with an iron fist, and ones that ruled with love. But we're all faced at some point, when we have this little child, what we're going to do. But one of the most important things that I want to preach, right? I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a second, is you want your child to have good friends. You want them to have friends, right? My thought is make sure, and we'll talk sports for a second here, because that you get them involved in a sport. Let me rephrase that. Doesn't have to be a sport, but a group, some kind of group activity, right? And sports is an easy one, because in coming up in those elementary schools, you want them to be part of a team and understand what it's like to work as a team, and that'll solve a lot of problems. But you'll also learn there are photography clubs, there are French and German clubs, and all kinds of different groups that they can be involved in, and not necessarily sports, although sports is a good one, because the worst thing that can happen is your kids will always bully each other, whether we like it or not. It's just a fact. But when you have friends in a group, you have somebody to talk to, and I'll always preach to make sure you have a pet at home, because that dog's going to give you unconditional love. Not like some of your friends, but if you're in a group with people, at least you'll have people to talk to and relate to, and it's going to get your mind off of some of these bad things that happen, because our kids are put into situations. Mine were that they never told me about. I didn't know they were going through some of these challenges, but being part of a group really helped them through it. And I say all of this because our guest today is an amazing individual. His journey as a kid and going through life was wonderful, and the way he knew for himself, things that were important to him and people that he related to, and you would never imagine the path that he was on as a young man and where he ended up today. It's pretty spectacular. He's a big time athlete, and he played for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he didn't get into sports till later in high school, so this is interesting for all of you parents out there. You don't have to drive that kid, at 7 years old to focus on one thing, right? Because coaches will lead us down a path sometime. Oh, you got to have one sport. Well, he's 7 years old. Maybe he can enjoy a little bit of life before you drive him to make a decision. Is he going to be in the NBA, the PGA, the NFL, or MLB. It's pretty silly, but I'm so excited to welcome my guest today. 5-time Pro Bowler, played in the NFL for 13 years, 12 years for the Dallas Cowboys, Flozell Adams. Flozell, man, this is such a treat because I'm a football fan. I'm that guy on the armchair that's watching my Dallas Cowboys, growing up all my life. Although even though I was in California for most of my life, I stayed a Cowboys fan, and I watched you through your career, and it was a spectacular career here. It's fascinating, though. And we're going to get to and as I was talking to everybody earlier, to your early life, right? Growing up and things that were important to you. But before we do that, I'm going to bring us to today. It's a little frustrating because now everybody on the Mavericks are hurt. And it's like...
It's unfortunate.
And that's when you're a pure fighter, when you got two arms tied behind your back. And your bench is coming up and killing it, man. That's the best feeling. Think about. Let me ask you a question about that. So, when you're playing, and your quarterback goes down, or when your fellow lineman goes down, does that affect you in a game?
Yes.
Do you go, definitely. We're in trouble?
No, we don't do that. We don't do that's in trouble. Like, say I've had this happen plenty of times. We have a quarterback go down, and we know that maybe he's a little shaky back there, and he hasn't had any experience or anything. So we'll talk either on the sideline or anything that come like that. Hey, we need to ramp it up, guys. We need to ramp it up and keep him protected so he can feel comfortable back there so he doesn't be erratic or make any rash decisions or anything like that. So we have to do everything we need to do to keep these guys off him so we can have all types of success to win this game. We know he's capable of winning the game as long as you help him out. And of course, you're going to help the starting quarterback do that, but you just got to do a little bit more when the backup come in. And
tell me about one of the times that happened. Who was your quarterback?
The first thing I can think of is the Romo situation.
Yeah.
And somebody might correct me on this. It's been a while.
That's okay.
But it's something. We had Drew Bledsoe starting. He got hurt.
Oh, that was a big one there.
That was a big one. And I believe we had a quarterback at the time named Chad Hutchison.
Yes.
And he got hurt.
Yes.
And there was a big controversy at the time, or something like that, why you dressing three quarterbacks. And Bill Parcells was the head coach. So they both got hurt in the first quarter, second quarter, and we didn't know what this guy can do. He's already been on the team 2 or 3 years, but he's just been in a backup role or a scout team or anything like that.
So you didn't really know what kind of game he had.
We didn't know, but we're still going to do everything we need to do to keep the defensive line off him. So
how do you keep from being deflated? All of a sudden, two of your quarterbacks are hurt in the first and second quarter, and you're going, can we fight through this?
You can get deflated at times, but it's the mentality that you have within yourself. Mm-hmm. And if the other person don't have it, it's your job to help him get that. Because if he doesn't do it, he's not going to help him. And so if I don't help him, he's not going to help him.
It's a true team.
It's a team thing. You're going to hear it. It's definitely a team thing. So it's going to fall like dominoes if you're like boom, 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 if you don't help each other do the things you need to do to be successful.
And that's a good philosophy in life, right? We're all a team. People you work with, you're a team. Your family, you're a team. You got to help each other through these difficult times. Because if you don't, what did you just say?
Yeah, nobody becomes successful.
And it falls apart. All right, so tell me real quick. Romo comes in.
And like I said, I'm going by like
a few years ago.
Faint memories.
We're getting older.
He went in and started doing a good job from the jump.
Isn't that amazing?
And he's never been in a game besides preseason. Never been in a regular season game. And then we were like, whoa, this guy he's kind of getting us hype with his ability. And I
Yeah.
can't remember the team that we were playing, but we were down. We were down some points. I want to guess 14 or something, and maybe he came in the end of the first half, early second half, and we almost rallied and beat the game.
Isn't that wild?
Almost won the game. And we saw what this guy can do, what Romo could do, and it just made you, within yourself, pull everything out so you can be successful to make him successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we were doing that before, but it's like a different surge at the time.
Yeah.
Saying it like, yeah, we can do this, so we can go on and just rally around this guy to be able to have success to make him successful.
And at that point, I'm trying to think. So you came into the league, what year was that?
98.
98.
Mm-hmm.
And this was probably
The end of the era.
what year was it, you think?
What?
When Romo came in? 2005? 04? So you'd been in the league about 4
it's
years.
04.
Okay. Yeah. So you were a senior guy at that point. You've been in the league for 4 years.
Yes.
You know.
Larry Allen was right there next to me, so
Oh,
he was a senior guy.
He was a
at the
senior
time.
guy.
Yes.
So and what I'm trying to get at is you've been playing a long time at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and in a professional aspect, 4 years is big. I mean, most players don't make it 4 years or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't remember. I read somewhere the lifespan of an NFL player is like 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's you became, you were at that point. Yes, Larry Allen is that dude. I mean, how many years did he play with the Cowboys? A lot. I know he got
12.
12 years. Okay, so yeah, did he go on anywhere else? He retired.
He did 2 years with San Francisco.
He did. Oh, you guys sold out. I can't even believe y'all went off to all our greatest competition.
Yes.
You went to Pittsburgh. He went to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just kidding. But, it's interesting because when it came to it, you guys rallied around a third-string guy. But that game changed everything for the Cowboys.
Yes, it did.
Because Romo became the starter, and the rest is history.
Yes, because at that time, of course, the media was rallying for Romo to be started because we were being very lackluster at the time with the in and outs of Chad Hutchinson and Drew Bledsoe, and Bill Parcells. He was like, "You got nothing to lose. You're going to throw this guy in." So we ended up doing a pretty good job that season. I can't remember the record or anything like that, but with him at the helm, that especially a guy out of Eastern Illinois that's undrafted, we did a pretty good job with him back there.
Truly, coming from a small school, that's pretty amazing. But obviously, the Cowboys saw something in this kid. That's why they brought him in at some point. Making that. Just getting into the big game, getting to the pros is a whole nother hurdle. I mean, I thought I was going to play golf, right? I tried to walk on our golf team in college and realized, no, these guys are talking about a whole different level of athletics. Is amazing. And so I want to go back, right, to you as a young boy. Going, okay, was sports your thing? When you're 6, 7, 8 years old and parents are putting their kids, they're going to become the next, superstar professional athlete, right? That wasn't your makeup. That wasn't where you came from.
No, my family is very academic-wise type people, so we didn't have any sports figures. I mean, probably had some uncles and things like that played basketball or high school football or something like that, but nothing. We had 1, 2 that played at a small university basketball, but not a very sportsy family. And growing up in the Chicago area, a couple of Bears fans and Bulls fans, but we didn't. Not very sporty at all.
What I loved about your story is when I read you didn't play football till your junior year in high school. you were in clubs.
Mm-hmm.
You played in the band.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love that. And I think you even said kind of with the nerdy folks.
Yeah.
That was your growing up, What you were in a couple of clubs. Tell me about the clubs you were in.
I like the German club, Spanish club.
Oh my God.
I was a part of those clubs because just as you mentioned when you were your intro,
Yes.
you said that some kids have to find something they belong to. Mm-hmm. So I found myself that I felt good in those groups. I found a group of kids that I felt comfortable with. Whether, some people want to be with the popular cheerleader type club or the debonair club or anything like that, or the most popular student or the athletes or whatever comes aboard when it comes to different sections in the school. Mm-hmm. And I just found myself more comfortable with that section.
Do you think that kids are pushed to a certain area by their parents or by how they grew up? Were you affected at all by mom and dad?
I wasn't pushed to do
sports
a particular thing. Mm-hmm. I was just pushed to do something. They pushed me like my parents, and my mother is the one that did all the pushing. My dad, he was definitely there, and he agreed everything my mom did. But
of course, that's what we do. We have to agree.
It wasn't like to today's standards, like we talked about, like kids on the computer and phones and iPads or whatever, and this all doggone day. Back in the day, we had the video game, so it's like kind of the same thing. So my mother pushed me to get off those video games, not be on those video games, and like, you're gonna do something constructive, you take a pick.
Good.
And
Mom.
whatever you do, you got to do it. And if you don't like it, you're gonna finish it till it's done, and then you're just gonna move on.
Because you committed to that.
Yeah, like say if it's from August to January, whatever you pick, you're not going to get to August to say I don't like it and quit. No, you're going to finish it all the way to January, and then you decide what you want to do after that.
All right, you were in French? Did you say a French group?
Spanish.
Spanish and German.
Yes.
All right, do you speak Spanish or German
not at all.
today?
I know uno, dos, tres.
Did you? What did you do in a Spanish club?
We took field trips and did a whole bunch of things like that.
Learned about it.
Yeah, one of the things about that, it was the field trips to get out of school.
Ah.
But that's number two. Number one is the students that you fell against. I mean, there wasn't even a lot of Spanish kids in the groups.
Yes.
So
the fellowship is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's more of a fellowship thing, and that was a group that I felt comfortable with.
Okay, and then I read you were in the band.
Yes.
So help me out with that. Now, what instrument did you play in the school band?
Well, the main instrument was the trumpet, and then the band director, I remember his name, Mr. Paul Telasco. He saw that I can play other instruments, so he introduced the saxophone to me, the three, alto, tenor, and bari. And that's a wood one. It's kind of hard to play, and then I went to trombone also. Wow. And then I played some of those instruments on different songs.
So, I mean, I love the guitar. Mm-hmm. I couldn't even figure out just how to play the guitar, and I played it as a kid, studied, had teachers, and I couldn't figure it out. And you went and picked up 4 different instruments and played. Did you go get instructions? Were you working with music teachers? How did you help me out here? Because I'm trying to understand how I worked so hard I couldn't hear the music, but you were able to just step right in and.
Well, by the time I got to high school, I started playing when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
So by that time,
who taught you when you were 3?
Classes, band director. My mother would put me in different things to be able to learn the trumpet. So that was at an early age. So I didn't have a class, and then the school had little small classes and stuff that when I was going up on kindergarten, second grade, elementary school, and so forth. So by the time I got to high school, and I had to try those different things, it just came natural.
It's natural. Yeah, you said something to me earlier when you said, I just hear it.
Just hear it.
Tell me about that, and how do you hear it? How can you distinguish? You said something about you can walk down the street and hear a song.
If I hear a song, I can hear mistakes. And from what is known, like a lot of famous artists, a lot of famous musicians, they can't read music.
Mm-hmm.
They can't. You can't put the music on there in front of them, and they can't read it. They don't know what a treble clef is. They don't know 4/4 beats per second or anything like that. They hear it. Because have you ever been to like a live band, a jazz club, or anything like that, and how they can play various amounts of songs?
Yes, and
Like,
pick up each other's
They
music
hear it.
and go.
They just hear it, man. Like a guy on the guitar. If you ever really look at him in the eye, and they start playing it, and then the music on, and he's like. And then he starts playing it because he hears it.
I mean, that's insane to me that because I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear those instruments and go, okay, I got it.
It.
Who inspired you as a kid? Whose music coming up?
When I first started, I wanted to play the guitar, but my mother didn't let me do that. She gave me the trumpet. But of course,
Come on,
my parents being teenagers in the 60s, I heard a lot of Motown.
Yeah.
A lot of Motown stuff. But I had a kind of a little mini infatuation with the British invasion. And a lot of those guys, like the Beatles or the Kinks or like Jay and Americans, or Bob Dylan or anything like that, those guys actually played instruments. Like in Motown, they had session band people playing stuff there, but these particular groups had played instruments, so I would just listen. I just loved the way it sounded.
You know, I have a great friend. I hadn't seen him in many years, and hopefully he actually may stumble across this episode. So Dino Fakaris wrote for Motown for many years. Wow. And he wrote the song "I Will Survive."
Mm-hmm. Gloria Gaynor.
Gloria Gaynor. Oh my gosh! And he wrote "Reunited" for Peaches and Herb. Mm-hmm. But he was part of that Motown group that they said they used to lock him in a room in a motel and go, "Okay, we need some hits. Go write some music."
Yes.
And who would have known? You know, he made so much money off those two songs alone. It was amazing. But. Yeah, and there was a guitar player, I think you had mentioned that.
Yes, Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix was an influence.
Hendrix. I just love the way he played. I mean, I would guess, and probably these Jimi Hendrix crazed fans were like, "Oh, you're wrong." But I would guess that he didn't know how to read music.
Oh, I bet you're right.
He just played. He heard it. He played from the soul.
Do you get the chance today to still play some music? Do you pick up your
Nah, not like I should. I keep saying that I was going to do it, but that I'm going to do it, but you know, it's kind of busy with regular life. So
no, I know, but you have a gift.
Yes,
Flozell, don't just. You've got to utilize that gift you have. I'm not going to preach to you, but I will say, you know, from a guy that doesn't have that gift and just only wished he had that gift, you have something special. So even if it's, I think you need to pull that garage band together and have some fun. But I think that it would be so important. I think, you know, you probably got a lot going on in your life. So, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff. But take that little bit of time and pick up that.
You're making me pull it out of me now, so it's probably when I get out here, I'm like, let me go buy a trumpet.
It just so happens I have a trumpet right here. No, I'm just
kidding. Okay.
I should have done that.
Yeah, I don't want to break your microphones or anything like that.
No, I think it would be so great because not a lot of people have that gift, and God gave you something pretty special. Not only, you know, He gives us a lot of things, right? And I think one of the amazing things that a gift that you received was you have parents that were amazing, and you grew up in this wonderful family life, and your mom helped, you know, guide you down this interesting path in this career. And we talked about you being in these clubs because that was, she said, do something, right? And you were drawn to French and German club. My wife's German, by the way, so I was going to have you say something in German, but you probably can't remember anything.
High school was a long time ago.
But then Tell me about that sophomore year because you were just a normal sized kid. And actually, let's go before we get there. Tell me about those earlier junior high, because you're a big man now. You're 6'7", probably 180 pounds.
Yeah, 180 pound plus.
Yeah. So tell me about those times in junior high, in the band, in the clubs. Did you play sports then? Tell me how you made that transition to getting into sports.
I played Pee Wee baseball. I want to say like 8 years old, something like that. I can't, we get older, you can't remember everything. I think I played for like 3 years or something like that. But that's the only sport thing I've ever done. That's 8 to 10, 7 to 9 or something like that. That was the maximum amount of time I've ever done anything sporty. But junior high, junior high in Texas is different than the Chicago area. It's only 2 grades in junior high in Chicago. It's only 7th and 8th. So I was still in the band at that time and haven't done any clubs in junior high. But once I got into high school is when I started these things. And being kind of a quiet person at the time and not knowing where to fit in and being in the band, some of those kids that were in the band were in those clubs. So they had me in a comfort zone that I was. So I ended up going to those clubs because those made me comfortable too.
And how did you get into sports in high school?
Well, I didn't play freshman and sophomore year. And I have a story about the coach Glover, David Glover. And so I'm going to high school, freshman and sophomore year. So the February, March of my sophomore year, I just happened to be in the field house, a place that, athletic area, which I'm normally not in. And he had saw me, and he said, he's like, dang, like, you big. He's like, what, you just transfer here? And I said, no, I've been here. And he said, you've been walking these halls all this time, and I never saw you. And I said, you must not have been looking. So he asked my name. He asked me, did I want to play football? I said, I'll think about it. So he asked my name, and I gave him my name, and he just walked off. He didn't say bye or anything like that. So I was like, okay, whatever. So it comes to that July, 4 months later. My mother told me that she was talking to him on the phone a couple of hours, and then once she told me she was talking to him that long, I knew something was wrong. Mm-hmm. So she said it like this. She said, I've come to the conclusion that you're going to play football. And I thought she was joking, but she was very, very serious. Yeah. Very, very serious. So whatever Mom said to do, that's what she's going to do.
Mm-hmm. So at that point, did you always have this size when you were like a sophomore in high school or a freshman in high school?
By the time I got to my football, my junior year, they had measured me, and I was probably about 6'4", about 250 at the time. So, yeah, I had the size.
When did you think you kind of started growing?
I think I started growing my freshman year in high school. Okay. I just started shooting up.
Yeah. And but what's fascinating, you didn't really have an interest to play sports.
Not at all.
So tell me about the coach. Has this call with your mom, says, spent 2 hours with her. So he saw something in you. It'd be fascinating to know, what he talked about. And, we talk about your mom. She passed, and God rest her soul. And I know she was a big influence on you. So when she said you're going to play football,
yeah, I'm going to play football.
Tell me about that. And you had mentioned you wrestled as well.
Yes, after that season.
So the football coach was also the wrestling coach.
Yes.
All right, so that's interesting. Do you find, why wrestling? Did he just, because you were a big guy and said, we want to put you in wrestling?
Well, at that time, I started to like being in sports. Of course, by the end of the season, I started liking it. So
you were probably kind of dominating.
Yeah. Well, no, not actually. I didn't know what the heck I was doing out there. the coach would be at time. I was playing defense, and he said, tackle the guy out there. At first, he told me, he said, I want you to whip his ass, and you take him off the ball and just dump him. So I was doing that.
Yeah.
But when I was playing defense, I was beating the offensive tackle or the offensive guard, and the guy would like run by me, the running back. And while he's running down the field, I'm beating this guy up.
Yeah.
And after about 3 games of this, he's like, he pulled me to the side. He said, you know you're supposed to tackle the running back. I said, yeah, I saw him.
You got to tell me. I've never played
you told
ball
me
before.
you told me to get this guy right here. You didn't tell me to get the running back. He said, after you do that, you get the running back. I said, okay, that's all you had to tell me. So I was doing what you told me. So, but once I started liking football, and he was the wrestling coach, he had said, come down there. He said, all men are downstairs because, downstairs is where all the wrestling equipment is, mats and wrestling room. He said, you need to come downstairs. I'll teach you how to be a man.
Wow.
And so that's where all the men were made, down there in the basement in the wrestling room.
Wrestling, God, and I've never wrestled, but I watch it and I see, it's almost like a chess game. So you probably had to find that pretty interesting. But then also, did it help with your balance, and did it help you with football is the question, I guess.
It definitely helped me with football. It helped me with the flexibility. You got to be flexible. It helped me with the mentality, and I think that's number one, and it helps you with the durability of it. So wrestling helped me in football.
Tell me about your experience with the team. Did it give you what the football team and the wrestling team, did it give you what the Spanish and German club gave you as far as that community and what band gave you?
It was hard at first. I was kind of like a loner guy back then, and all of those guys have already been playing for years. So they had their little sections and thing, and I'm like an outsider that came in. Mm-hmm. So once it started getting probably more like my senior year, started gelling with a couple of other players, and I was still in the band at the time. So I had my bandmates, they had the guys on the team.
Yeah.
So I did find about 3 or 4 guys that I gel with. I did not gel with most of the team at that time. Mm-hmm. Just a couple of guys that I found that I was comfortable with and hang out with on the team that that helped me.
Did your bandmates think you sold out and went to play football, or were they cheering you on?
Actually, no, because I was still in the band.
Oh, okay.
Still in the band.
And you could do both those things.
I did both.
So at halftime, you took off your your football uniform and went out and played in the band.
I did.
Just kidding. No, you didn't.
No, I'm serious. I did.
That's unbelievable.
I did. And it was kind of a controversy where Coach Glover and Mr. Telesco,
the band coach?
Yeah, the band director and the head coach of football, they had a meeting. And, band is like, you can't leave the band. You can't quit the band. Once you're in the band, you're in the band.
Wow.
So they had came into an agreement that, Mr. Telesco would let me out 10 minutes early to go practice. And the other thing was during halftime, they would pull me out with 1 minute left before the half, and I would go into I only had to do it for home games.
Yes.
And I would go inside the building, which was right next door to the football field, change, put my band clothes, march with the band, go back in, and put the football uniform back on and come back out and play.
I wonder if there's any player that's ever done that.
I've heard of one.
You have?
Only one.
I've never heard of that. That's there's a movie there. Mm-hmm. I swear there's got to be a movie that we can make about that, because it is so, unheard of. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty cool the way you actually did that. You cared enough, because today, and you can tell me whether this is good or not, coaches go you got to make a decision. Either you're going to play baseball, basketball, football, hell, you went the other direction and said, well, I'm going to be in the band because I love it, mm-hmm. and play football. Mm-hmm. And then the coaches had to figure it out. Mm-hmm. What do you think about them forcing kids, and even in junior high, make a decision on what sport you're going to play?
I think that a lot of coaches it's different these days, and for them to pick and choose for the student or the student athlete, especially when it comes to the high school type of thing, I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't interfere with the main platform of the program, like at the degree maybe like 10 minutes left, you're in it 2 hours on each side or whatnot. But what's another 10 minutes to leave early and then 10 minutes or a minute before half to do complete. As long as the player doesn't affect either or.
Right.
If the player can't do both, then of course you have to be an adult or anything and probably make a decision for him, even though him or her, if it doesn't work out. But if he can do it, let him do it.
Yeah, I think it's healthy, right? To do more than just focus on one thing at that young.
I think it is.
Getting you the chance to be diverse and do these different things. And I mean, what an experience, because you had to, you crossed an interesting line there, right? You've got kind of the nerdy musicians over here, then you got the athletes, and you had to walk an interesting line there to play both sides of this thing. And I hope I'm not being too narrow-minded saying that this goes on.
It's true.
But I know it goes on, and so that's fascinating. As a kid, how did you reconcile that? Did you just go with the flow, or how did you that was an unknown thing, playing in the band and playing on the football team. Where did you find your support from in helping these guys make this decision?
I was always taught to finish stuff that you started. And because with the love of the band, and I think when Coach Glover had me come out for football, he knew that I loved it.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, I want to make this guy happy, so I'm going to let him, do the band. As long as, and play football at the same time. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. And I don't think Mr. Lasko thought that. The band director, he's like, but, as I said, they came to a resolution. But I was taught that once you start something, you have to finish. And if you love it, you have to do, anything you can to, stay with it.
Do what you love.
It's going to be a little harder, but that's life. It's hard.
So these kids coming up, if you had to stand on your soapbox and go, this is what's important, what would you say? What's most important to a young high schooler, freshman coming into a new school, maybe new people? What do you tell them? How do they navigate, getting into sports today or into clubs, just in general? What would you say?
I would just tell the kid to do what you want, do what you love, and if you have that type of parent or you have that type of coach, try to explain to them and do what you can to be able to do what you love. Like say they're putting in a situation like mine, so it has to be a way that you can be able to do both when it comes to that stuff. Today's time's a little different. I don't know the schedules of high school, so to speak, but it has to come to some type of resolution. So if you can do both, let them do both.
You said something so important. He knew what I loved. I loved band, and I didn't want to give that up. And so having parents that saw that too, and coaches, you were lucky.
I was
that they put that thing together for you, right? And allowed you to do things you love, because too many times, we get into things that for a paycheck or because we're pushed or not because we really love it. Understanding that. And I see the love of music in you. That's why I'm going, you got to pick up.
Yes.
You got to pick up that instrument again and play. And,
I think I don't know it.
You have to, because we can't, regret's a terrible thing. And so I don't want you to get too far down that path. And but let's talk about your career. So how big of a transition was it? Did you know, were you getting scouted already in high school to these colleges? Were they already going, eyeballing you and calling your mom, we want him to come to this college or that college. Tell me about that.
I wasn't really doing much in high school at the time. I didn't have the all-state stats, and when I was playing defense or offense, I wasn't a 5-star athlete. Actually, I was talking to a couple of my buddies the other day. They were saying how they were 3-star, 4-star. And they asked, like, Flo, what were you? I said, maybe a 1-star. And I think I got a scholarship to Michigan State for potential ability.
Interesting.
It wasn't because of what I've done, because I didn't do anything in high school. I mean, by that time, I was 6'5", 280-pound dude. I mean, you got to try. I mean, you look at him like, man, I got to try. I got to try. You don't know what you're going to pull out of this guy.
Yes, because you had only been playing for a couple of years at that point.
Like he might not do anything, but, man, just look at him. I got to try. So I think that's how I got to, scholarship at Michigan State, because of potential.
Mm-hmm. So at what point did that turn? I mean, to get to the NFL is a massive deal. Mm-hmm. But so tell me about those college years and how you grew. Tell me about that journey going to Michigan State and what happened in those years that changed your athletic career.
Well, I did what I was taught. I went to Michigan State and did what I was taught. Coach Glover said, beat that guy up, so I beat him up.
Yeah.
And one of the things where when you're a freshman, they put you on a scout team. And that scout team is what you demonstrate for the starters. Like, say if Michigan State was playing Michigan. The scout team would pretend to be Michigan.
You cracked yourself up on that one.
Yeah, I'm used to saying it, because that's what they are. But anyways, I would be on a scout team. I would, along with the other freshmen, pretend to be Michigan so they can demonstrate what plays are going to go against.
Yes.
So they're like, oh, show this, and this is what they do. So, you're supposed to go half speed, 3/4 speed, or anything. I wasn't taught to go 3/4, so I was like hit. And the juniors, the seniors, whoever starters would get mad, and they would like punch me and play jokes and trash your locker. And I was like, okay. I just kept doing it. Over and over and over again. Yeah. Over and over and over again. They would get mad. They would jump on me
and
try
to beat me up. Do.
Yeah, so I just kept doing it. I told them, you can beat me up and do all the things you want to, but I'm still going to do it. I said, there's nothing you can do that's going to keep me stop it unless you injure me. I said, you're going to have to injure me for me to stop it.
You probably made them better for that.
I think I did. We beat Michigan a couple of times because of it.
So when did the coaches spot you and go, no, this guy's got to be a starter?
Actually, I don't think they knew that I was going to be a starter. And at that time, I was there a couple of years, and the other guy left.
Okay.
So they just pushed me up.
You played what position?
Offensive tackle. And at that time, I was at right tackle. And the other guys left, so the guys that were with me and below me by that time, I don't think they were good enough. Mm-hmm. So they put me in. And so all of a sudden, I was doing what I was taught. I just went out there and just started beating dudes up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the mentality, was vicious. I'm going to beat this guy up. I'm going to win. Mm-hmm. Was that the mentality they gave you?
Yeah, that's what I learned from day one from Coach Glover. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you're going to feel this. You're going to feel it.
You played against me. You're going to feel it.
You're going to feel it. Until the last day that I played football, it's like no matter where I win or lose. And I always say this, and a couple of my teammates, if they watch this, they're going to know, is that if we lost as a game, that guy's going to look in the mirror the next day and see me and know that I beat him up.
Yeah.
And we were actually talking about that when we met last week.
Yes.
We had a guy, Eric Warfield,
with
us in the group. And we played against him in Nebraska. And that's when they had, a lot of people will know Tommy Frazier, Lawrence Phillips. They beat us up pretty bad, like 52-14. Oh, and he was talking smack, saying, oh, we beat you. I said, yeah, you won. But the guy that I was playing against didn't win. He didn't win at all.
Yeah, that's good.
So
that mentality I'm going to jump ahead for a quick second. That mentality off the field, have you used that same mentality in business?
Yes, I definitely use that in business. In a more subtle type of way, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I get it. And we'll get to that in a second because I think that's important. And I want to talk about pivoting in transitions because just for a second, it's so important to understand in your 20s, you are at the pinnacle of your career. And you've made it to this high point and you're praised by everybody and you're playing professional sports. Oh my God, but the window is short. And then how do you even make that transition from playing with America's team and then it's over? When it's over, you got to figure out, well, I'm young. Now what is my next deal to do, right? Making that pivot, a lot of guys don't do it very well.
Not at all.
And so I'm really interested, and let's just go down this path, and then we'll talk about how in the world the Cowboys found you. But oh my gosh, that had to be an interesting time for you, because I know you had already lost your mom, and was a huge piece of your life, right? What did you do when it was retirement time? Because you went over to play for Pittsburgh, and then that ended. You know, you played for them, and so how do you reconcile?
Well, I have to go back to like the beginning of my career. When I first started, the statistics do show anything about 4 years, 3 to 4 years. In actuality, it's not the physical side of it, it's the business side of it. Because in the NFL, I think it's changed. It's only changed like maybe a couple of months. But in the NFL, you're vested at 4 years.
Yes.
So vested means that whatever team you're with, the team has to pay your pension.
Yes.
So people are like, oh, you got 3-4 years left in the league. I'm like, well, that's not entirely true. It's true, but it's not like you get beat up or you're going to have a career-ending injury or you're just not good. It's that once you get to that fourth year,
you're covered.
Yeah, once you get that fourth year, you have to make the team in your fourth year to be vested. So at that time, if you're not like a full-blown starter or contributed a lot, make second team anything, or you're just a special teamer, once you get to that point, the team is looking like, okay, you made so much money at this particular point, is that we can get 2 younger guys to make that money.
Yeah.
And we don't want to pay you a pension. So you get cut.
It's strategic.
Yeah, it's strategic. So when you go to another team, they're looking at your film, they're like, oh, he's just a special teamer. We don't want to pay his pension. Cut. I mean, you won't get a shot.
Oh my
So that's
gosh.
what
that's cold-blooded.
Yeah, that's the business side. It's not actually
So
all
that's
physical.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, it
All of
is.
a sudden it gets down to the point to where you got to be really cooking, otherwise
Pretty much, yeah. You got to be cooking real
they don't
good.
want to. Because that last team that has you have to pay the pension,
Yes, for the most part.
not the
yes.
guys that you played with for the 4 years before that.
No, you got to pay. That's the business side of it. So when I first got in, I didn't start starting to my 4th game. But, I actually started thinking about statistics of the actual, at that time I didn't think about, the pension or anything. I just thought the way I was and the type of person that I was at the time, that I would last about 5 years. So it wasn't until by my 3rd year that I started thinking about, like, what I'm going to do after football. What I'm going to have to do. Because my family was in the real estate when I was growing up. So it was a lot of stuff that I had saw and a lot of things that the family members had taught me. So at that time, I was like, okay, I got a psychology degree. But what I'm going to do, like, listen to other people's problems. Not to, say anything bad about psychiatrists or any person that got a psychology degree. But at that time, with the level that I was at, I'm not going to be sitting on the couch listening to other people's problems or anything like that, because that's not what I wanted to do.
I did need to talk to you about this problem I'm having.
Yeah.
Now that I know you got a psychology
But
degree.
I still get that, actually. A lot of people bring their problem to me, and I just give them my best opinion, free advice.
There we go.
It's been like that forever.
That's
But
funny.
I started thinking about, of things I have to do. And I had a friend whose father was a contractor. And, I used to hang out and everything. And then I used to tell him about stuff that I grew up with. And then it came to my attention that, came up with a particular business thing dealing with real estate. So when that came up, I don't know, third or fourth year, I took a shot at it.
While you're still playing.
Yes, while I was still playing, because at that time I thought I was going to last about 5 years.
Yes.
And I was going to be done. So let me create a business right now, so something I can fall back on. Because once you're in the league or anything like that, everybody's smiling at you, they want to be your friend and all a pat on the backs. But I knew early that it's all BS, most of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys don't see that. But I knew that it was BS, and I knew once those doors close, they go away. Like, go away, seriously. Mm-hmm. So, but at the time, whether you know it or not, you should take advantage of that as much as they're trying to take advantage of you. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in a bad thing. It's just a situation that you're in.
Business.
It's business. Not personal, it's business.
Yeah.
So that's why while I was playing it, I created the business of the real estate so I can be able to do the things I wanted to do after I was done.
How many guys did you see that spent it faster than they made it, never thought about that it would end?
I would say that's probably 80% of the guys. They would try to do stuff after they're done, and once the doors close, it's harder for them to do it. Not to say they didn't do it, didn't succeed. I'm not saying they didn't, but it's just a little bit harder.
That mentality, man. I mean, listen, as an actor and in the entertainment business, I see it too. Mm-hmm. Your income is like this all the time. Mm-hmm. And if you are lucky enough to hit the lottery and get a big show or a big film, make it to the NFL, make it to the NBA, right? Mm-hmm. Those times aren't always up here, right? It's
not at
an
all.
ebb and flow.
Yes.
And although, football was a little different than baseball, you get guaranteed. I mean, that you sign that deal, you're going to get your money. Mm-hmm. Football, it wasn't all guaranteed. Did you get any guarantees with yours, or was it like, I know a lot of guys that, dude, if they were cut, it was over. They may have had a $50 million contract and got a little bitty signing bonus, and they had to work.
Yeah, they had to work. They're just giving it today. I'm like, my mama should have waited about 10 years. But they're just giving it away now. I mean, it's amazing. And we're in a free agency right now in the NFL. I just look at it like, wow, you're just giving it away.
Getting upfront money.
Like guys in my area, let alone the guys before me. Yes. I mean, you got a little something. Yeah. But you have to work for all the rest. If you got it, you have to work for it. And then most of that stuff, say you had a $50 million contract, even back in my area, it'll be like 6 years, $50 million. But they'll backload $30 million of it at the end. So by the time you get to your third year, either they're going to cut you or they're going to renegotiate where you don't even get that.
You're never going to get that.
And that's it. That's how it was. You didn't get anything.
No, I remember Troy when he signed that big, I think it was $40 million deal, but it was over like 10 years. Mm-hmm. And he was the pinnacle, man. That was Troy Aikman, right? Mm-hmm. Brought you 2 Super Bowls or 3 Super Bowls. I don't remember how many, but and so it's fascinating. One of my best friends is Spud Webb. Mm-hmm. Came up in the 80s and in the 90s, played through the 90s, slam dunk champion, played for 12 years in the NBA. But those salaries were so different. Yes. And now you see him, he's going, man, if my mama had me a little too early. Yeah. But it's really fascinating. And then the baseball players that get these, $200, $300 million contracts that are guaranteed.
Oh, guaranteed.
It's like, oh my God. It's pretty wild to see. And the numbers are so big. It's almost like at that point you become an expert in finance, right? Mm-hmm. You're understanding money because you don't really, if you're smart, you're going to do smart things and put your money places where that's going to be your work going on forward. I got to know so many boxers over my career, and I watched these guys making $100 million, for a fight, and then not having anything.
I don't know how
a few years later. It's like,
I don't get it.
yeah. I mean, it's that mentality that it will never end, and
Yes.
that's the tough mentality. What I love is the fact that you saw that timeline, the 5 years. Now you went and played another 7 years after that, which is completely amazing. While you were playing, you started your construction company.
Yes.
I mean, that is pretty special, because you're not a lot of guys do that. As you said, you see 80% of them are spending it faster than they're making it. And I see, just being around so many athletes, I see there's so much pressure too from family and friends, and that becomes, you feel this obligation, and that is a big burden on a lot of
Big burden.
athletes. And I've seen it take a lot of them down, and I've seen it disrupt families. And the saddest thing is when you see these guys, spend it all keeping everybody happy, and then that door shuts, and they're going, well, how am I going to just now go do a regular thing? It's tough, and that's why, hopefully they're educating athletes earlier and better, because unlike you, there are a lot of guys that, because you started later, right, as a junior in high school, but there's kids that are told how wonderful they are from junior high, and they don't hear the reality of life.
Not at all.
And because the reality of life is they only like you as long as they can use you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But so pivoting, wasn't a big pivot. You planned it, and so that is a great lesson. Would you suggest that no matter what you're doing and how much you love it, always have a plan, a second thing. No, I got to be able to make sure I can put bread on that table.
I would say make a plan. I would say do it as soon as possible, because you don't know. I mean, you might not make it to the fourth year or try to get vested, because you might get chopped off at the knee or have a neck injury or anything, or something that's going to prevent you from playing ever again. So you want to come in immediately. Like say if you have your first year or whatever, the NFL has retirement programs you can do where you can go join a corporate or do some type of what do they call that? Where you volunteer
Right.
at 500 Fortune companies or anything like that. Take advantage of that stuff. If you don't have an idea,
those relationships are so important.
yeah, you never know when you're going to fall back on it. So I mean, like say one of the things they have Chase people there. They have different banks or mortgage companies you can be a part of. They could fall back on or anything, because you build relationships. You never know when you're going to have the person that likes you. They're like, oh, he was a hard worker when he was here. When he came and volunteered, let's hire him.
So do you suggest that, say you're not in sports, say you're just a banker, right, and you got a job and you're grinding, right? Should we be looking also for a side hustle, something that you love to do, just in case this doesn't pan out? Or maybe you're in something and the money is good, but you don't really love it.
Still do it.
Still do a side hustle. Something that you are passionate about. Is that the key?
It doesn't necessarily, if you have a side hustle or anything like that, yeah, you could do that. But as part of doing something else, networking is always important, even if you're going to do a side hustle, no matter what it is.
Especially today, back growing years ago, you worked at a company for 40 years and got the gold watch.
Yes.
That doesn't seem to be the reality anymore. They let you go like the NFL. They let you go before that. They have to pay that big pension, even in corporate America.
Yes. Yeah, NFL, like I was saying, a lot of people don't hear this, not for long.
Yes.
And it's definitely not for long. So you just got to take advantage of all the situations that you're in. And I was taught this early, but I didn't really understand it until I got to the NFL, and the not for long, is that never feel comfortable where you are. Because those jobs where you're, like our parents or anything, been there for 30, 40 years, getting a constant paycheck, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you know you're going to be there 30, 40 years, 20 years. 'Cause, I mean, that's what they choose to do. But today's, things are not like that. I mean, say if you're a banker, as you say, I mean, we'll be there, 3 years, 5 years, and you're going to go to the next bank. You're on the next bank. You're going to get higher, and things like that.
Yes.
So it's not just in the NFL, not for long. You can be working at some bank down the street, or you can be a producer in Hollywood, things like that. You're going to hear him get an Oscar and all that other things, and then you never hear from him again. Like, what happened to this dude that made that movie like 10 years ago?
One-hit wonders.
Not for long. So you got to keep going. You got to keep moving. You got to be able to create a network and be able to do the things that you would like to do. You got to find a passion.
Yeah. And I think today people want like immediate gratification. I see so many people go, I want the yacht today. Mm-hmm. They forget there's work involved to get to that point. And although kids really have it pretty good today, with social media, and there are thousands of kids making a lot of money knowing how to drop ship and sell things on TikTok and Snapchat. And, we work with a lot of influencers, and I'm watching these 18 to 22, 23-year-old kids knocking down millions of dollars a year. And a lot of them making 80, 90,000 a year at, 17, 18, 19. And I'm going, we used to just mow lawns. Now these kids have figured out how to do it, right? They figured out this side hustle. Now, it's not going to last long. My own son was in sneakers, and he was knocking down real money. I mean, it was pretty nuts selling sneakers through high school. And it could have been a whole career, right? And I'm going, all right. And he's kind of talking about the future. And now he's already off entrepreneuring onto something else. He opened a club, and he's just doing all kinds of businesses. It's not for long.
Yeah, not for long.
And so, all I try to preach is save some money, do what you love. And my oldest, is a computer engineer getting his PhD, loves what he does. He's graduating, finally this year, he's going to get it done. And he's changed his thoughts, right? I thought I was going to do this. Now I want to do this. And I said, that's what's going to happen, And this gives him the chance to be entrepreneurial, right? So many of his friends just went over to Google or to wherever. And he goes, I love to create something new and change and own it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably the big takeaway, right? Is things are going to change in our lives, and so you want to plan, as you said, as much as you can.
Yeah. So everything, like you said, today's modern society is instant gratification, and just as you mentioned that you work with influencers, and there's like thousands.
Yeah.
And it's hundreds of thousands out there that's trying, but there's only thousands do it.
That's
and
right.
Like I mentioned to you before in the beginning, I'm a statistics guy. So what is that statistic, or what is that percentage? What's 1,000 compared to 100,000? 10%. So that's not very, very high. So if you don't get to that 1,000,
Yeah.
you got to figure out something else to do. You got to keep on moving. So when it comes to that, the instant gratification, gets a little bigger.
Yes.
It doesn't work out. So that's why you got to just keep on moving and trying to find out what you got to do.
That's why I'm trying to convince you, if this building thing doesn't work out, you can step back and start playing music. See?
Yeah.
We know that's your love.
You use your studio as a recording studio.
Come on. Yes. I don't really play the guitar very well, but maybe I can just do some backup. I can play the tambourine a little bit.
It'll be all right. You can do that.
So you tell me about your current business. You've been doing it a long time now, if you're building, and you started at your third year in, started your building company. Tell me, what is your expertise? If you said, I do this, I'm a home builder, tell me about how you would capsulize that in what you actually do as a home builder.
Well, I'm a saver. And when I brought this particular project, I had thought about how much I'm willing to lose. Because whenever you go into business, it's always a risk.
Yes.
Everything they put in front of you is not guaranteed. And when you get people that do that stuff to you, like, when it comes to financial advice and stuff, they're going to tell you what you do with your money. And, you got to think about, how much I'm willing to lose.
Yeah.
So at this particular point, I got to a flip. It wasn't a new build at the time. So I thought about how much I wanted to not want to lose, how much I'm willing to lose. So just like I said, it's always a risk. So that ended up being successful. And then I don't jump into the lake right there. I'm going to stick my toe in.
Yes.
Because most people just jump in and I forget to stick my toe in just to make sure everything all right. Because instead of me falling into the water, I'm going to keep my body out here on the land.
That's right.
So I did one house, flipped one house, and I did another one, and another one, spaced it out, then another one, then another one. After that started being successful, I started doing two, and then 4, and then 6, and just started building. That's how I started building. So the first 6 years, that's what I did, until I had the opportunity to start with new builds. So once the new builds started coming in, I started leaving the flips and just started building the new houses, single-family homes.
So would you build them as spec, or would people come to you and say, I really like how you built this, will you build my house?
Well, I was doing specs at first. Then I went to the customs, and that wasn't good.
It wasn't?
The custom building is not good.
Oh, my God.
You got to be very patient with people when you're doing a custom home.
They want everything and don't want to pay everything.
They want everything, but they don't want to pay it. But that's the easy part. The hard part is when they pay for everything and put it in, and they come look at it, they don't like it.
Oh, my God.
They want it all ripped out, and then they want to do something else. That's the hard part right there. Literally change the paint, rip all the rock features and stuff I don't like it. I don't like it. So they're just going to just want it redone.
Oh, that would be so frustrating. You just want to move on to the next job.
I just want to move on to the next project.
Yes.
So I got to come back and use my guys to do this stuff all over again when I could have them go on to another project. So it's costing me.
Yes.
So that's why I didn't do custom homes for a long. I only did it for 14 months.
So what is if I said, what is your sweet spot in home building?
The specs.
The specs.
Specs, single family home. You get people all the time to this day like, okay, can you just pick? No. Well, we would like to have this. No, that's comes with it. That's it. You can do, after you close and you move in.
You can pick these colors.
Yeah, after you close and you move in, you can do whatever you want to.
Yeah. So do you, there's guys that, like David Weekley and these other big developers, Centurnian and American, they go and develop out communities. And in those communities, they have 4 or 5 builders. Are you one of those guys that
I've done stuff like that too.
Yeah, where you go
I've done my own areas, and I've done in communities too.
What is your kind of sweet spot? What do you like most?
I like doing the stuff on my own.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, because usually in subdivisions and stuff that you build, you got to find, follow guidelines, so to speak. And then there's a lot more competition.
Yeah.
So out there, outside the subdivisions, when you're building your own, people just, they're usually quicker. But then they got 3 competitors out of, and 4 people in a subdivision, so they looking all at the other houses too.
So you go in maybe to a already mature development, and then take down a house and build a new one. Is that kind of what it is?
Well, no, just new development, raw land.
Oh, raw land. Okay.
Yeah, it's raw land. I have done that. I mean, it's really not much. Depending on the size of the house, it's not a lot to tear down and to get it moved out of the way and start anew.
What is the most profit kind of price range? Where do you like to be in developing out a house?
Well, the bigger the house, the harder to sell. So if you stay in Dallas community, DFW, if you stay around 400 right now, it doesn't last.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't last at all. I mean, they usually buy it halfway through.
Wow. All right. Sounds like a good business to be in.
Yes.
But, with these interesting times that we find ourselves upon, you better pick up that music because
I'm going to do it.
you might not be
all right,
playing
that's
pretty
the
soon.
3rd time you mentioned I'm going to go.
Sorry, I keep bringing
I know a
that
guy
up.
that I know who can go tell me where to go buy me a trumpet.
But you got to invite me to come
Well,
to
once
your
I
first
start
show.
perfecting my masterpiece, I'll let you know.
That's so funny. Listen, this has been really wonderful, and I think we learned some real important information, right, about life, your journey, and how you've gone down that path. Because so many people they get lost, and they're not sure what to do next, right, or where to go, or but I think you've set some real interesting guidelines for yourself, that how you were taught, and so much of it too comes from how you were raised, and your parents were in the real estate business or the building business, I guess, and so your family. And so that gave you a little leg up. You knew a little something about it.
I did.
We get it by osmosis, right? My family was in business and retail and a little bit of manufacturing. And so whether I liked it or not, I learned that. So when I came into I wanted to be an actor ever since I can remember, right? When I came into that business, I didn't know that it was a business. I had to figure that out, and I had some mentors that Dick Clark gave me some great insight. He said, Tommy, you got to understand the business of this industry. And if you understand the business of this industry, then you can be successful, right? Because there's millions of actors out there going on auditions, and at that point I was doing 20, 30 auditions a week, just beating my head against that wall. And, I wasn't the most handsome guy coming in that door. And back then it was, if you weren't blonde hair and blue eyed, and I had a funny name like Habib, they were like, yeah, I was the last guy, right, that they would hire. But I would knock down a job once a month, right, which would help pay rent. But Dick Clark changed it for me and said, the business, you control your own destiny. He goes, that's what I did. And I went, okay. And I started thinking about how I grew up in business, right? And it wasn't, we're all selling a widget, right? And we're developing out this widget, whether it's in the jewelry business and whatever business, in the film and television business, we're all selling something, right? And if you sell it and you own it, you control it, and that's where the power is. And as you found, right, the athletics is a business. The NFL, the Cowboys, and these other teams, they made a decision. They're either going to cut you because they don't want to pay that pension. It's a business. See, I was listening too. And in the real estate, in the building, it's a business. You learned. All right, doing these customs homes can be a problem. You only did it for a while, but you found this sweet spot in what you do. And it is a business for people that are buying into that house and moving into, it is their life. This is their home, right? It's different. It's not a business for them. It's an emotional buy, and which can be which can be tough, right? When you're dealing with emotions too. And so the fun part is getting to go down these paths and learn things. And you've learned a lot in your career. And I couldn't imagine what it would be like to know my career is going to only be this long. As an actor, hopefully I can work till I'm 90, right? And fulfill the thing I love to do. As an athlete, it's going to end. Something not you, but a lot of guys, since they were 6 years old, played sports and thought they had a dream, I'm going to be in the NFL one day, right? But never thought it's going to end. When it ends, then the reality hits. And so, but you did it smart. You planned. And in the middle of your playing, you started doing something you really loved and knew, which was building.
That's how you got to do it.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you, man. I learned so much, and it's been really enlightening and fun. And I think everyone learned something today. So as you know, I rescue dogs all over, and it's a big passion of mine. So I make a plea at the end of these shows to don't forget to adopt, don't shop. So remember, any kind of dog, next time your sister wants, or if she wants a second dog, we don't have to buy it. We can adopt him. Any kind of pup you want. Literally anything. These dogs that people pay $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for, don't do that. Let's rescue one that's in trouble, right? These crazy puppy mills are out there. They're pumping out dogs because these guys are making a lot of money. So if they're selling them at a Walmart parking lot, that's a problem. Because I can't tell you how many of those guys we've had to go in and shut down because they were doing bad things. These little puppies, never see grass, and they're born in a crate, and it's they never let them out. This is how they make money, and it's the saddest thing ever. So remember. Don't buy, adopt, and go to my website, go to totherescuetv.com, go find me personally, and I will help you get whatever kind of dog you want. It's very important, and remember, always look into that puppy's eyes, because it's all unconditional love. He's there for you, and sometimes we take advantage of those little pups. And I know you don't have one, but we're going to get you in one. We're going to take Flozell on a rescue mission, and you're going to fall in love. I know you travel a lot, but that's okay, because we can help you. We got systems here, right? We can have somebody stay with that pup while you're not there.
Well, let me know about it.
I'm going to let you know. Man, I appreciate it so much.
Now.
It was fun having you
problem.
on. Thanks for everything.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.